Welcome back to Build Better. I am here with Jim Work again. So
Hey guys.
We are going to get into the home building process today, down to the nitty gritty, because I know there's so many things where you think of home building. There's a very shallow umbrella that you probably think of, but there's a lot of things that goes into home building that aren't going to just pop up at the top of your mind. So that's what we're going to get into. And let's just dive in. What is the typical home building process like, Jim?
How much time do we have?
Yeah, right. We got all day.
Yeah, I think we're going to dive into other parts of this later on maybe.
Yes.
But gosh, I mean, like you said, there's so many things that people don't think about that happen behind the scenes that are required to build a house. We've even had some on-your-lot customers who've come to us who are like, hey, we found this lot. We were kind of thinking about building ourselves, try our hand at building ourselves. And they realize like, oh my God, there's a lot to do.
This is a lot.
So I would say the typical process for us is you call in or send a message through the website or Facebook, Instagram message, whatever, and get in contact with somebody on our sales team. Usually we have Allie, who's our online sales counselor, and her job is literally like air traffic control for our salespeople. So she'll get you with the right person. Which if you live in a certain area, like let's say you live in Naperville, but your budget, you're looking to build in Elburn or Sugar Grove or Plainfield. We don't want to send you to a $900,000 house in Naperville, maybe if, your budget's $600, whatever it is. So she'll get you with the right salesperson. If you're on your lot, we have a dedicated person for that. So she'll get you with the right salesperson and then set up an appointment with that person, and you can tour our model homes. And that person can take you through homes that are in construction or existing finished model homes. So you can kind of see every step of the way. But it starts with them and really understanding what you want. Our sales team is trained not to be a bunch of pushy salespeople, but to really, really understand what our customers want. So they have some questions that they ask almost every single customer, like what are you not finding that you want? And that's where our niche fits really well, because a lot of people come in and they like, like we've heard this enough. We've kind of figured out that, well, what are you finding that you don't like, that you want, that you can't find? Well, I've been looking at resale homes, used homes, and they don't have a big enough kitchen, or they don't have a sunroom, or they don't have a third car garage, or whatever it might be, right? So it's just really understanding that. Like our salespeople are good at selling homes because they're just good at listening to people and figuring out what they need. I mean, we have a good product. We don't have to try to force it on people. So we just try to figure out what it is that you really want. And then from there, it's working into the details of a home site. Like I said, we can get into more details with our sales manager about kind of that front end of the process. But from there, you're really trying to figure out what home site it is. So if you're in one of our communities, which is a subdivision that we have, say, 30 lots or 50 lots, and we've got a model home set up there, you can pick from any of those lots. So if you're meeting with that salesperson, you can just walk down the street, take a look at a lot, try to figure out if you want, maybe a field behind you, maybe trees, maybe a pond if it's a community that has ponds, stuff like that. And then the different types of lots. So this is where a lot is not a lot, and our salespeople are trained on this. But do you want to have an English basement, which means you have those windows that are about 2-3 feet tall that you can look out and not just have a basement window well? Right. Or do you want a flat lot, or do you want a lookout or a walkout?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to figure out what the plan is, what home plan. We have a lot of popular plans and a lot of changes you can make to those, and then fitting that on the home site, because not every house fits on every home site. So, that's the process to kind of narrow that down. And then from there, you'll sign a contract. And after we sign the contract, that's when everything kind of steps into motion here in the office.
The ball is rolling.
Yeah.
So basically, why is it important for homeowners to understand this whole process before they even start building? Like,
in my experience, and I think we've learned over the years, and I think most of the team would agree, customers that have built a house before, and I don't mean to scare anybody, but this is such a great topic, and I'm glad you're asking that. If they've built a house before, they are a dream to work with, because they kind of know the good and bad. And one of the things that we've always done, even when I was helping to sell houses and meeting with people, is just be honest with them that, like, this is a messy business. We're building something outdoors. Like every other product you buy, everything we're staring at, from the Dunkin' Donuts cup to our laptop, is made in a manufacturing facility that is climate controlled, Like we're one of the only industries still that builds stuff outdoors. And we're in the Midwest.
Yeah.
So we're going to add in,
Even better.
like we're going to go from 85 degrees and 70% humidity to no humidity and 10 degrees. So there's just a lot of stuff that can happen. And so we've just always been really honest with people. And we even have a little chart that we put in our contracts that years ago, lawyers used to give us grief about. They're like, you can't put this in here. And I'm like, why? Like, it's just this very plain English, what to expect with Silverthorne. And some of the things on there are, you got to understand that your home is your home, obviously. Yeah. Like, obviously, you're going to be more emotionally invested in your home than you are the other 10 homes that are being constructed in that subdivision. And I get that. But, our construction manager has 10 customers that he has to keep happy at the same time. And so, like, there might be something that doesn't happen on your house right after the last task, or sometimes there's a delay. We're waiting on something. Sometimes the city delays things. So it's just important to understand the positives and negatives. I mean, you'll have a beautiful new home. You'll be able to customize it the way you want it. But on the same token, you're going to have a broken window. You're going to have a piece of flooring that gets chipped. Like, people need to understand it's a messy business. And, we do hire good trades. And one of the examples I used to use with customers when I was selling homes myself when we were smaller was, you got 300 sets of these hands. I'm holding up my hands right now for anybody that's not watching a video, but I would hold my hands up and say, there's 300 sets of these. And that means there's 300 different human beings that work on your house. They might only come in for 5 minutes. They might come in for 3 days. But if you made a mistake at your job, a simple mistake, would your boss fire you? Like, no one would be left. But, these guys are humans and they make mistakes. The good important part is that we find it, we catch it, we correct it. Like, that's home building. And if you think, or if a builder tells you that your home's going to be perfect, they're lying to you. Run and hide. Like, they're just lying to you. Like, they know if they've built homes for any amount of time, I don't care, even the best of the best, even myself on my own personal homes, like, you do run into problems. It's not also filled with problems, but you should just be ready for that. And then there's also on our what to expect sheet, like, personal stuff comes up.
Yeah. That's very true.
Somebody I know, their mother just passed away and they're in the middle of building a home. They probably got all kinds of other stuff to deal with and process and all that in the same time they're building a house, which can be stressful. So again, I'm not trying to talk people out of it by any means. We build houses we don't want to, but just going in eyes wide open, and we try to set expectations as best possible. But, some people unfortunately believe that a new home is a perfect home, and that's not going to be the case. But on the same token, we're also there a year after the closing with you. So if something does go wrong, it's taken care of. You buy a house that's 5 years old and the water heater goes out. Congrats.
That's on you.
Mm-hmm. So, I would just, understanding the process of how the sticks and bricks get built is important, but also just understanding that, there's people that build your house outdoors in a not so great environment.
Real life,
manufacturing.
not robots.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's another great, like, your car is welded together by robots now, not people. People have to put your house together, I mean, stick by stick.
Yep.
So
on site, right there, real life. So it all makes total sense though. But I guess with all of that being said, like, yes, we are very transparent with your home building process, but we also want to have you be happy with the floor plan that you choose. So the foundation of that, how does a homeowner basically select a floor plan? Like, what are the factors that they should be considering when they're wanting to go through our floor plans and choose one for what they want to set their journey off on with Silverthorne?
Can we talk about your friend in a second?
Yes.
Okay. That's a good example. I was going to say some of the biggest things that I would look for that I always recommended to customers, and I think most of our sales team now does as well, is the big stuff, the structural stuff. If you're thinking about a finished basement, even maybe not a finished basement because you could do that later, but like if you're thinking about a sunroom, like, and I'm actually going through this right now. We live on a great lot. It's an infill lot, kind of like our On Your Lot program where it's trees and wood and stuff. So like I could go buy another lot, but the problem is I can't find another lot that I really like. But I did not build a covered porch, and I really want a covered porch now. So I'm going to tear apart my 7-year-old home.
Yeah.
And I mean, we build homes for a living, but like our guys don't usually tear apart a home. We're not remodelers. So that's going to be interesting. But as just an example, I wish that we had thought about that then. and put it on at that time, and I would have spent the money on that instead of something else. So like everybody wants cool kitchen cabinets, like really awesome quartz counters, tile backsplashes, and I know that's not easy because a lot of times when you want to build a new house, you want all that cool, new shiny stuff.
Yeah.
But try to keep in mind like the floor plan, and even if you have a family, we've got no problem with building. We've done it a couple times, build another house for you, but I'd rather see somebody build a house that has the room they need, like building a 4-bedroom instead of a 3-bedroom. Like, oh, 3 bedrooms, okay, we got 2 kids and us, and that'll be fine. Well, then, mom or dad needs to move in, or you have another kid, or who knows. So I would say just trying to focus on a plan that take care of that kind of stuff first, and a lot of the finishings you can always upgrade some of that stuff later. That's what I would say. But I was going to say your friend too. We were just talking about before we got started, Hannah, right?
Hannah, yeah.
So she saw an on your lot house that had brick.
Yes.
She really liked that, but it's a floor plan we don't offer anymore.
Correct.
But then we were just talking about in like a span of 5 minutes, we figured out where she can live, what brick, right? Like
Hannah, if you're listening, we have a lot for you.
Yeah. But like that's what I mean. It's so crazy because this is such a great example.
Yeah.
Just a normal person that's interested in maybe building a home, and they see that and they're like, I want that. Well, I can't have that. Oh, darn. Well, but you can have that on a different plan. Let's find the lot that fits for you,
What options can we switch around to get it to exactly what you want it to be, and
like we could make
a family.
We can make a Bettendorf that looks exactly the same color palette as that one. Yeah.
100%.
That'd be an awesome house. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think she'd be very happy with that. And that's just, like you said, one thing you really want to think about the bones when you are starting to choose your floor plans with us, something that you can be happy with living with. And bells and whistles, sure, that can come along the way, but it's harder to build on rooms later on than it is to put a tile backsplash in.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of funny. I've been playing with these all morning, but we have these little playing cards that our sales team came up with, just kind of a fun way to help discern what's important to people. But like what they find out is, you can see all the cards I have, but finished basement, price, gourmet kitchen, moving walls, commute to loved ones, commute to shopping, commute to school, square footage. Look at all these cards we have. And so they put these on the table, and it's just a fun way to kind of figure it out, like what's most important to you, what would you pick?
That's really hard.
I know, right? And I've built a number of homes for myself, and it is, I will say, one of the things that I can say is I've had the privilege of building a couple homes. Every time you're done, you don't get it right. So like what I meant by it's never perfect, like in the span of a year or two, things change. Like when we built our house, our mudroom was a great size. Now that our boys are older, holy hell, we need more space.
Sports.
Yeah. And we have like lockers all the way to the ceiling. We did something a little more custom than we normally do here at Silverthorne. It's something we could do if you really want it. But we have space all above it for like a lot of their sports gear and stuff. And like, that's like, we're still out of space, you know? So yeah, things change, or, trends change too. And you build a house and 2 or 3 years later, like, I wish I did this. Like, that's totally normal. So just don't stress about it getting it perfect, I guess, is the other thing I would say. Like, if you've done this before, and a lot of our customers who have built before know that, they're like, hey, we'd like to do this, this, and this, but we understand that, like we're going to get it as good as we can, and it's never going to really be perfect. So what would you pick?
Like, this card is
Finished
what's
basement?
important. That sort of thing.
What would you pick? Come on.
I don't know, honestly.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, like...
Come on, one of these has to be like... well, you're buying a house. What would you pick? You literally just went through this.
I don't know. Maybe large basement. Like, here we go.
Large basement.
Yes.
You don't care about the kitchen?
I do, but I don't know. Some things take precedent over. Kitchens are so good, though. I don't know. Skylar, what do you pick?
I tried to do it, and I couldn't do it.
She can't pick.
Yeah. See, so it's different,
I could not get it.
So that's why the sales team came up with these little cards. Because, they could sit here with a customer for a half hour just organizing these cards and trying to figure out what the top 5 things are. But that's one of the things I think our sales team is really good at, is just, sitting down with people and trying to help them figure that out. That's what we're here for, is try to help you figure that out.
And
You
I
know,
think this is a super fun way
there's
to do
no,
it. So.
very rarely do customers come to us and go, "Yep, I want to finish basement. This." Like, don't get me wrong, that's a dream.
Like knowing
We
exactly.
love that,
Yeah.
but nobody we get it. People don't generally come to us that prepared. You know, that's what we're here to help with. So
Exactly. All right. So I've not super fun thing to talk about, but it's something that you do have to talk about and people have to think about when they're building a home. Permits, legal aspects, all of that jazz.
dun dun.
Basically, what are the legal requirements and permits involved in building a home with us? And I mean, honestly, anywhere and everywhere, what do you have to go through?
There's a lot. For if anybody from any municipality that we worked with listens to this, I apologize in advance. But I mean, I grew up in Chicagoland, and unfortunately, we have a lot of bureaucracy around permits and building and stuff like that. And I'm not saying none of it is necessary, like building codes improve life safety things. There's definitely things that are important, but there's also a lot of things that are just kind of bureaucracy. We just submitted a site plan the other day. I just got copied on an email, and we got back a 6-page review letter that basically said at the end, "You're good, but we just need you to add a bunch of notes." And the person doing this is asking us to add notes that no one in the field's really going to look at. Just being honest. And everybody involved, the engineer doing it, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But that's, send the email back to them. They have to review it. Well, that's where it adds up and takes some time.
For
In our Eastern Iowa market, like Bettendorf, Davenport, they're a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
They have a little less, they're kind of a little more old school. They can get a permit a little bit quicker. But, in Chicagoland, I'm just, I'm going to use Plainfield or Shorewood as an example. Usually there's an HOA approval process. So most of the communities we build in do have HOAs. So depending on that HOA and if there's a management company that runs it or if we run it, that could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 to 5 weeks. Sometimes we also have to have the colors. And so one of the things I used to always tell customers is it's a two-way street. So while we're working on permits, when we say permits, we're working on like engineering, permits, HOA, everything we need to dig a hole and start a house.
Yeah.
It's not just the building permit. Yeah, there's so many different things. There's transportation fees, there's impact fees, all kinds of stuff that has to be done. And so we're trying to get that all done. And if we don't have your colors and the HOA only meets once a month, and right now it's the end of September and they have a meeting on the 4th and you pick out your siding colors on the 5th, we can't change that. We can't call in a favor. We can't do anything. So you just set yourself back 30 days,
Yep.
And that's, I think, where customers sometimes do get frustrated. We'll communicate that, but people are like, and I get it. Again, you only build probably one house in your lifetime. You want to try to get it right. But sometimes if you delay, that delays us. And there's certain things we'll go as fast as we can, but if we can't.
And that kind of goes back to the expectations we were talking about. You just got to be completely open-minded with things can get set back a little bit if things aren't decided upon.
And most reasonable people, if they do choose their siding late as that example I just used, they're like, oh, okay. They get it, but that's just, I think, a good thing to understand. And so then from there, they have to get an engineering site plan for every single house. It used to be you could do one in-house with our architecture team. We can't do that anymore in a lot of municipalities. We have to have an actual engineer do it. Those engineers usually have a 2-3 week backlog, and we don't want to use the engineer that's able to do it in 3 days because he's bad, right? We don't want your basement to flood. We don't want to have poor grading. So we obviously want to use somebody who's good, and we're kind of picky about that. And so that process takes another 2-3 weeks. I mean, it could take about 90 days on average to start a home. I think we're running 92 days right now in Chicagoland. And that's down, during COVID, people were really, really busy. A lot of the building departments couldn't hire people or they couldn't find the right qualified people. So it was taking even longer. But yeah, there's a lot of back behind the scenes kind of stuff. Yeah. And our architecture team the entire time is, building a lot specific blueprint for your house. We don't build cookie cutter houses. We don't build, what the big public builders build. And so we have to build a new blueprint for every house. So people are like, oh, well, I bought a Bettendorf. I didn't change much. Well, but you put in a mudroom bench and we, put in a powder room and we stretch the garage a little. That's a brand new blueprint. Like,
Yeah.
yes, we have something to start from, but we want to make sure it's right. And so our architecture team is doing that, reviewing that. Structural engineer reviews it. So like, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. We could get into that. That could be another great, like that could be an entire podcast episode, honestly.
Architecture.
Yeah.
Let's chat. With all that being said, we can dive right into financing and budgeting too. I mean, how does construction financing work?
So there's two different ways to do it with us. In most cases in our communities, you're just going to buy the house from us. I hate to make an analogy to a car dealer, but I'm gonna. If you used to go buy a car, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, you might go to the car dealership and find the car you want and then leave and run over to your local bank and get a loan and then come back with a check from the bank and buy the car. Nowadays, you go in there and it's a one-stop shop. Mm-hmm. And so we don't own a finance company like, maybe General Motors or somebody like that does, but we have finance partners that we work with. In this case, it's Key Mortgage, John Cornish. He's been working with us for a long time, but you don't have to actually get a construction loan. So you're just getting a regular mortgage. So that's a very good question because it comes up a lot. You don't have to get a construction loan. If you are trying to get a construction loan, usually you need more equity, more of a down payment. Usually 20, 30%. So that scares a lot of people. And then they're like, oh, I can't build a house if they just Google this stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's like, well, but you don't need a construction loan with us. So you can build something, semi-custom and you don't have to, buy a big production builder house that's gray and gray and gray. But like if you want to build a house the way you want it, we can do that for you. And then at the end, you just have to make sure you've got your job and qualify for the mortgage still, keep your credit good, but like during that time frame, you're good. And you just come to the closing like you were buying an existing home with a regular 30-year mortgage, Now, if you do our on your lot process, we require those people to get a construction loan because we don't, if we were just talking about a customer in Marengo or a customer in Huntley, like, we don't necessarily want to own that house forever if God forbid something happens to you or your family. So we do require those people to get a construction loan. And in those cases, usually you need 20, 30% down. But we do have another preferred lender that we work with on that stuff that does for certain cases for people that earn a lot of money or have high levels of savings where they can do it with a little bit less. So in a construction loan, in that case, you take out a construction loan, we build the house. And then at the end of that time period, it's what's called a construction to perm, where it automatically converts into a regular mortgage, or you can refinance that mortgage, that construction loan, into a regular 30-year mortgage. So
I'm learning things today, Skylar. This is great. I'm going to build with Silverthorne next week. We're going to... Yes. And so financing, budgeting, is there any advice or...
Yes.
You'd have about budgeting?
Always budget a little lower. This is like my number one frustration. I said this earlier, like our sales team they don't have any incentive to sell you more than what you need.
Right.
I mean, yes, they're commission, but I mean, if they sell you a sunroom or not, like it's a pretty small commission on that little extra piece, right? They really want to make sure you find the right house. Our sales manager is very adamant about making sure that our team understands that. So like there, certain other businesses, they get paid for upgrades a lot. And a lot of big national builders may or may not also compensate their people their way. But we're not looking to do that. And so the reason I say that is we have people every once in a while, and I'm sure everybody's in a different situation in life, but like, hey, they're approved for $350,000 or $550,000, and they want to spend $549,999. But as we said, something always changes, maybe even in your own life. And so I would just say leave yourself a little bit of a cushion. And the reason I say that is while you're going through the selections process, you're going to change your mind. Like even if you are one of those people that thinks you have it all figured out, like I know exactly what I want. You're gonna see something like you were just saying this for the Design by You
house.
You're gonna be going through and be like, ooh, that gold faucet's pretty cool. If I did that in the master bath, it would be, another $530. Like, ooh, well, if I'm at 549,999, like I can't do it, and then you're disappointed. So I would just say when you sit down with a salesperson, like get the house, get a lot of the big stuff in there that you want. Make sure that you got that figured out. And our salespeople will walk you through this too, but just leave yourself a little bit extra. And even if you get to the end and you get to the finish line, you close on your home and you have some extra in your budget, great. Like now you've got some room for
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
extra landscaping or new furniture, right? Like
Yeah.
that's something that's always frustrated me is people try to like, I don't know, just push it a little too like close. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is there a better way to say that? I
Yeah,
mean,
playing with fire with that budget.
yeah, you know, and like I said, I've built a couple homes for myself and my wife's been around this forever. She knows, but we change our minds too, you know,
Yeah.
and I know better. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, even just like doing remodels at my current house and everything, like you're gonna have change of mind through things, and you have a budget in mind, and you're gonna be looking at all of these things, and that budget is gonna go away pretty quickly if you want to add this, that, this, and that. So giving that cushion is.
and our portal
Definitely
makes
nice.
that easier because you can see all the changes in real time. So you can kind of like build, kind of like if you build a car line, you can build the house, so you can see
You can
where
like
you're at
see
least.
your
You know,
total of like exactly.
yeah. But like when you're remodeling or you're working with I call it the pickup truck builder, the guy that builds
Yeah.
2 or 3 houses a year, he'd be like, yeah, it's about this much. Well, but do you really know how much it is? Like I've heard horror stories from people where they come to closing and they owe $25,000 more. That's I think where a lot of people, we're really, really persistent about not having that happen. But I'm going to get nickel and dimed. Like, well, you're not going to nickel and dime you for anything. We're going to put in what you ask for.
Yeah.
If you choose it and you add to your budget. But all I'm telling you is like, even if you tell yourself you're not going to add to the budget, you're going to stick to it. Like it's human nature. It's your home. You're going to want to make it nice. You're going to go a little over, you know? So leave yourself that cushion. Yeah.
Repeat it with me. Cushion. Oh man. So you're building a home with Silverthorne. What is the site preparation like? Like, once the design is finalized, what are the next steps before you break that ground?
Yeah, we
Final
have to get some environmental controls in place. So if you ever see that black fence around the site, that's silt fence, it's to try to keep dirt from running off the site. A lot of people think it's trash fence. Like it catches trash, yes, but it is not for trash. It's there to keep erosion from happening, to get into the rivers and streams and, you know, fill up the Mississippi River or you know, a lake or the Illinois River or whatever. So we have to do that. And then we also always do a pre-dig meeting with every single customer. And that's super important because we have a checklist we've created that we've refined over the years where we go through all these different things. And so we'll actually have the set of blueprints for your lot specific blueprints for your home with all of the changes that you've worked on with your salesperson, just so we can go over it one last time. And the way I would like to say it is, or explain it, is that it's a lot better to spend an hour or two with our construction manager in the field at an empty lot ready to go than trying to argue or get upset with any of us for 6, 7, 8 hours and make multiple trips to the house. Like, let's just try to figure that out now, you know?
Squared away.
So we go through that in the pre-day. We'll go through any of your customizations. We'll go through the detailed timeline of construction. Like, here's when we think we're digging. Here's this. You know, it's always an exciting time for people to come out and take pictures with the big backhoe there, or it's
break out our golden shovel.
Yeah, the golden shovel. We've got the golden shovel. If you want a golden shovel picture, and Macey can throw you up on social media.
yeah.
Some people really love that.
Yeah, I can tag you.
Yeah. It's we always do a pre-dig meeting. So you'll get a chance to meet your construction manager at that point. At that point, you're in the construction manager's hands for, you know, the duration of construction. Your salesperson's still involved, obviously, but that's really your go-to person at that point. So.
Yeah, and then they're in the portal updating like every week, right?
Yeah, our construction managers are required to update our customers with photos. So, you know, when I got into this business, we didn't have anything like a portal. And so, you know, if you were working late and you were at like 5, 6 p.m., your customers would come rolling through with their kids, like before baseball practice, after baseball practice, whatever, you know, or after picking up the kids from school. There'd always be that little rush of people because they would just drive by and see what was going on. I get it. But yeah, it's an exciting time. But we upload photos and send weekly messages, and then we do calls as well. So, you know, we'll call people, and just so if maybe something slipped through the cracks in the portal, they have an opportunity to verbally ask.
Yeah, make sure everything's covered. Make sure you're totally updated as well, which is nice because I've heard time and time again people that have talked to other builders or had a family member that build with some big national builder compare it to our process where they're like, I didn't want meet with my construction manager. I didn't go to my lot with them or anything. I was sold that lot in the house, and that was pretty much it. And Silverthorne has a much more transparent process and is so much better with their portal about reaching out, being clear with questions, any concerns that pop up, and basically squaring away the entire building process. So,
when we say get more of Silverthorne, it's
Yeah.
one of the things we say if you come into one of our model homes. Skylar made these beautiful, and says get more communication. Like,
Yep.
I'm a guy, so I can say, like, we're always accused of not having enough communication from our wives or girlfriends. But I
Not
mean, like,
wrong.
that's a whole nother subject for a different episode. But we try to do the very best job we can. I'm not saying that we're perfect and we couldn't do better at it, but like you just said, I mean, a lot of customers have complimented us on that. I know there are people out there that would like to meet with their construction manager, on site, like Bob the Builder, every day, and that's not necessarily what we do. But we do have customers that want to come out once a week and meet with their construction manager, and the guys do that. They accommodate, But the big thing with that is I'd really encourage people to check out our reviews, because you'll actually see on those reviews. It's actually I'm really proud of what we've built for this, because, and like anybody, we're going to have a couple bad reviews, they're there. But if you look at the overwhelming amount of good reviews that actually call out our portal, like I would say, what would you say? Like one in every two. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Like if you go through and they're like, oh, I really like the portal. It kept everything organized. When I got in home building, everybody would walk around with this binder. They'd have this like big binder, and they would put all the cut sheets or like your faucet specs and your wood and everything. And they'd put this in this big binder. And so you could tell what customers were more organized than others. Other ones were like, I don't remember. Some people would show up with this binder, and we had our own like job site files that were kind of like a binder. So like a section for permits and schedules and selections. But like customers would have that. Think of our portal as the online binder. So, if you're at your friend's house, like, hey, what'd you pick out for faucets? Like, boom, you can pull it up on your phone and show them, and even get their thoughts or input. So,
Just super cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Definitely sets us apart, I would say. But I guess going through construction phases, what would you say are the main points of construction, and what happens at each stage of construction, like foundation, framing, that sort of thing?
I know we don't have 4 hours, so
Yeah.
I'll keep it to the big items, and then maybe we can do some podcasts about, each of these like milestones. The main phases are obviously when we dig the hole. That's the most exciting part, and we start building your foundation. So just this giant hole in the ground, we're going to build your foundation. That takes some time. We want to make sure that the concrete cures properly.
Right.
One of the things, as I said earlier, in expectations wise, is there's always a wait period. And there's not a wait period because we want there to be a wait period, where there's a wait period because we're trying to do it right. So your concrete has to cure. That's a very popular one. Like, why is there no progress? Like, because we want to make sure that your foundation walls don't collapse. We want to do it right. So we have to let that foundation cure and the concrete gain strength. So before we put the dirt against it. And so after foundation, then we move on to framing the house. That's probably, I would say, one of the most exciting parts for me is like you really see it come out of the ground. The foundation's cool, but like it's kind of like underground. You drive by, when you see the house start to get framed in the matter of a couple weeks, it's got a roof. It's starting to get shingles.
You can walk through rooms.
Yep. It's very exciting. That's when it really kind of comes to life. Probably the most rewarding part for me, I would say. Even when we build like a new plan, like even I'm still excited, like a little kid, to go in there and be like, oh, cool. Like we've got the new Erie plan. Like I kind of can't wait for it to be built. It's
like
not.
I just walked a Superior plan for the first time.
That's an awesome.
I'm like, this is fun. I like this.
Should be
one.
your next house, right? Has a large basement. We're onto something here. So after that, then it's the mechanicals, the electrical, the plumbing, the HVAC. So each of those trades goes in and puts in their specific, and then we go through inspections. Every municipality has inspections. We do our own inspections, so we have checklists and our own inspections that our guys are required to do, and then we double check them on. And then we go into the drywall phase. Drywall's pretty quick. But then after drywall, we go into what we call the trim stage. And that's when all the good stuff gets put in. So the flooring, the cabinets, the countertops, all the cool stuff you picked. And that's where it kind of comes to life. So that's the overview. We can get into more details on a different podcast, I guess.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I guess moving right along, what are some common challenges homeowners face during the home building process? What have you encountered people running into? How can they be avoided?
Do you mean like in the field, like things we run into, or more that on the customer side?
Either or, really. Like people listening right now, like back to being transparent, like what are some things that, like small things people have run into?
I think one of the biggest things is if you're indecisive, it can be hard to build a house, just being honest. I mean, if you're very indecisive, you might want to check out one of our inventory homes, which is a move-in ready home. It's one we've already designed and built, and it's beautiful, and you can move into it, and you don't have to do all that stuff.
That's very true.
But most of our customers do want to pick out all that stuff. So if you're kind of in between and you feel like you're indecisive, now we do have our portal specialists that can help you with those selections.
Basically
so if
hold
you're
your hand through.
Yeah. So if you're kind of in between, like, that's cool. But if you're very, very indecisive, I've seen that be an issue for people because then they get frustrated because they don't make a decision. And we try to nicely tell them, like, hey, we're going to have to delay this. And then the delays stack up and they're like, oh my God, you guys didn't get the house done. We're like, well, we kind of told you we need to know what we're putting in the house to build it. You know, we don't just go down the street. I just had a customer that closed on a house 6 or 7 years ago, and they had a window issue. And so I sold that house, and I have their phone number. So they texted me, and I got them connected with the window company. They're going to take care of it for them. But stuff like that.
So is there any other challenges that homeowners you see face during their home building process that could be avoided or mitigated, something we can help along with?
Yeah, I think one of the other things is just the schedule and thinking that everything's going to get done tomorrow. One of the best examples I can ever use is there was this great plumber who he passed away, but his name was Pete, and he was a plumber, so we all called him Pete the Plumber. And Pete the Plumber was a great guy. He went to church every Sunday, like very just stand-up guy. I'd let him watch my kids. I mean, like an excellent guy. And he forgot an ice maker box where you hook up your fridge line, you know, behind your fridge.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to get the job as far as he possibly could because that's the kind of guy he was. And he wanted to get it 99.9% complete. And so he stubbed the pipe up from the basement and left it open. And I had a customer call and get a little irate that Pete, who's like, again, one of the most conscientious guys I know, didn't finish the plumbing and we were going to have a massive problem. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be over there in, like 2 hours. I can meet you there. Okay, great. So I meet him there and I'm like, yeah, Pete called me this morning. Now, I mean, obviously we're going to try to communicate with you as much as possible. We can't tell you every little gory play-by-play detail. Yeah. And so Pete and I had already had it worked out that he was going to be at the house down the street. The electrician and the other guys had to finish their work. And as long as he got that ice maker box installed in the next 2 days, everything was fine.
Right.
But if you don't do this kind of work every day, you might look at that and be like, well, the plumber's not here anymore and they're not done. And that's what that homeowner was thinking. Like, I wasn't really upset about it, but looking back on it, I can see how they were concerned and confused. So I would just say, like, that's one of the things that's great about our portal. Just shoot your construction manager a message. And, in that case, had we had the portal, this is going way back. Yeah. But in that case, if we had the portal, our construction manager that night or that morning could have answered and said, yeah, we're just waiting on an ice maker box. It was back ordered. Like, he's going to have it in. No delays, no problems. But, yeah. I mean, if you want to build a house on your own, by all means, go ahead and try it. But, I mean, there's a reason that you pay us to do it. And I've always found it interesting, too, on HGTV and those kinds of shows, you don't ever see one of those where people build their own houses, do you? Because there's just a lot more pieces and parts.
Now that you say that.
There's just a lot more moving parts than just, than just remodeling. So.
And our online portal, literally all of your communications can go through there. So you can refer back to everything. Everything's in one spot. You don't have to worry about picking up the phone and calling. You can literally reach out to us on the portal. Uh-huh. All of your people for your house are on that portal.
And we have a mobile app, so if you don't want to have to open your laptop or get on a PC, you can do it through your phone too. So
I have it on my phone as well, so it's very convenient. We've touched a little bit on this here and there, but how does the weather or supply chain issues impact the timeline of the whole building process?
Well, like we said before, we're the only people that manufacture things outdoors where it rains, sleet, snow, tornadoes,
Midwest.
hurricanes, I hate to see what the people going through the hurricane remnants are dealing with in home building down there. Yeah, I mean, the weather is definitely a challenge in the Midwest. We're going to do a podcast episode on the winter. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about that, but, rain is another one. I mean, it's been a rainier summer, I think, than prior years. We had some droughts, but like a lot of people get concerned about that. Like, oh my God, my house isn't framed. There's water inside. Like, yeah, that's normal. One of the best examples I like to give is I've talked to some customers over the years like, oh my God, there's water in my basement in the winter. Like if we have a spring rain and your foundation just got poured, your basement is going to fill up with water. I don't care who you are. Even Michael Jordan and your basement's filling with water. We'll pump it out. But, like that happened on my own personal house just because we built over the winter for our last house. And, people feel like, oh, there shouldn't be water in your basement. That's a factual statement after you move into the house.
Yes.
During construction, like at that phase, there's really nothing, like we're not going to put a giant circus tent over it. No one would.
Yeah. Any house is out in the elements at that point.
So, so your subfloor, your plywood for the floor is getting wet. Like all that stuff is normal and we're used to that. We're not doing it because we don't care. We're doing it because we know that that's normal and that product is rated for it. So yeah, the weather is a challenge. We work around it, but just understand that, the weather has an impact on it.
Yeah. But we do work through the winter. So
yeah.
Don't get cold feet, no pun intended, about building through the winter. What happens if a homeowner wants to make changes after construction has begun? Any time of the year.
We try to limit that. And the reason we do is because we've just learned over the years that if we try to do that, we end up disappointing ourselves and the customer. We don't want to be so rigid like some of those big national builders where you don't get to pick out what you want to put in your house. But one of the best ways I've said it to clients in the past is that's not a problem if you're not sure what you want, but then I've got to kind of move you back to the back of the line because other customers have made their selections and it wouldn't be fair to them to delay their builds, So if it's a minor change, that's kind of up to our construction manager and our production managers to, determine if that is what we determine is a minor enough change. But sometimes what you might not realize is that, as an example, I want to change my stove, or I want to change from here's a better one. I'm going to move from a microwave over the stove to a chimney hood.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
That involves like 4 different trades. We've already sent them purchase orders and paperwork and stuff. And so when, the guy in the field who works for the HVAC company is there with like 2 different purchase orders trying to ascertain which one's right, that's when mistakes happen. And so the reason we do that, people I think are always like, oh, they just want me to pick it all out. And like, no, we're doing that because we're trying to avoid those mistakes. Because we know when that mistake is going to happen, going back to my icebox story, like you're going to be upset. It's human nature. I get it. But like, we're just trying to make sure you're not upset. Like we know enough about this that, if you make changes late in the game, it will. And that's one of those things where if you feel like you cannot make those decisions and you would want to change things along the way, then a fully custom builder is probably the way to go. Like those guys will take your money and tear something out that's already been done. The way to describe it to people is you got to pay for it to be done 3 times.
Yeah.
You got to pay for it to be done the first time. And then when you change your mind, you got to pay for it to be torn out. And then you got to pay for it the 3rd time for the way you actually really wanted it. So save yourself some money and aggravation.
The agony.
Yeah. And like I said, it happens. I'm not going to say I've never done it in any of my homes, but I've also been burned by it because, we changed the railing and then, we forgot about this, you know? And I'd like to think by now I know what I'm doing, but it's a complicated process. So we have a process and it works. Yeah. And it's human nature, but if you want to make a lot of changes after construction's begun, we might not be your people. So
once again, just being transparent. Nothing wrong with that.
For sure. Yeah.
I guess post-construction and final walkthrough, what happens during the final walkthrough of your Silverthorne home?
Yeah, so the final walkthrough, we call it a new home orientation, is really just to get you familiar with the house. Beforehand, we have our own set of checklists that we go through. And then this is really important to me because I cannot possibly walk every single home anymore. Our production managers do. I cannot, but because I did swing a hammer and I do really like the home building business at its core, we pay a third party that will not even allow our people to be there while they're doing the inspection. That's how serious they are about it. Like if they show up and they're there, they'll give the guy an F, basically. Like it's kind of funny. But our scheduling's pretty good, and those guys will show up and they will tear that house apart. And then, we have a little kind of internal contest about who can get the best score. But I mean, we consistently are getting scores that are, in the 90 percentile range, and the industry average is like, mid 80s. So, I mean, that tells you a lot right there. But, even then I still get that PDF. I get images of those things, whether it's like a little bit of paint on a hinge, and some of the homes are really, really clean. Sometimes somebody just makes an honest mistake, but it allows us to try to catch that before you go to that new home orientation. And that orientation, we're going to allow you a chance to walk through, but hopefully at that point we've caught almost everything. Now we're not perfect. We might miss something, but the things that do end up on our new home orientation list generally get fixed right before closing, and they're pretty minimal,
Right.
So.
And what warranties or guarantees would our homeowners expect once their home is complete?
So we have a typical 1-year warranty. One of the things that we do offer with our Delta MS, which you just did a cool feature on Facebook and Instagram with Ryan, is we put the Delta MS system on all of our basements. So that gives you a 10-year dry basement guarantee. So that's pretty cool. That's something I don't think we talk about enough, really. And then our 1-year builder warranty. So that is a workmanship and home builder's warranty. It's not a maintenance warranty. Now, so many things in a new house are low maintenance, but they're not no maintenance. So one of the most common things is like caulking and things like that. But we do have our own warranty staff. We don't. Some builders, and especially some smaller builders, will not have a dedicated warranty person. And so I've always felt pretty strongly about this. If you have a construction manager that's got, a couple homes that are getting wrapped up and they're trying to make those customers happy while they're still trying to make some customers that just moved in 3, 4, 5 months ago happy because they have a small warranty issue, like they're just at conflict. It doesn't work really well. So Josh and his team, Josh, Brandy, Glenn, do an awesome job. Glenn is like the most chill, nice guy. I mean, he's perfect for that position. But like Glenn is getting so many good reviews from people and shout outs because he's awesome.
I know, like my husband's aunt and uncle that are up in Hampshire in Silverthorne home. There's like one small thing that Glenn had to come over, and they're like, I was with them yesterday actually, and they said it was just the most pleasant experience with Glenn. And I said, how cute.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that though. Like that's a great testimony as to why we have a couple people that do that. Like, yes, the pickup truck builder guy, he might be able to do that, but he's going to send over the plumber that's got muddy boots at the end of the day, who's going to walk through like, I've seen this stuff happen, and then you're like, then you're calling the builder going, some guy just walked through my house with muddy boots and I have company coming over at 6 p.m. What the hell? Like, I don't, so.
The attention to detail.
Yeah. And, there are things that come up during warranty, and, it is a new home. A lot of the products that are in the house have to dry out. So, like a door adjustment, things like that. There are little things that come up, and we'll do things for customers, again, just transparency. Like we'll do what we call courtesy items. Like we'll tell you, hey, this is not a warranty thing, but like caulking. Yeah. Especially if you're a first-time home buyer and you've never had a house, like Glenn or Josh, one of the guys will literally bust out a caulk gun and go, come here, let me show you how to do this. Like if you want to hire it out, that's cool. But a lot of people just never had anybody to show them that, and they just need to be shown. Like we'll show you, and we'll do it for you once, maybe just as a courtesy. We can't take care of your house forever. Obviously, I don't think any home builder offers that, but I think our warranty coverage is pretty good compared to the rest. So
yeah, I agree. Honestly, when those family members were building with Silverthorne and they were telling me about the warranty guarantees before I even worked here, it was just kind of like light bulb moments in my head. Like, oh, like I feel like I haven't really heard that before, but cool.
Well, and the other thing, like we talked about, is, I mean, if you are looking at a resale home, you're not sure if you want to build, maybe that's why you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had it happen on rental properties, and I've had friends that have bought houses. Of course, they always call me because I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy, but I can't help them in some cases. They're like, well, they use the same water heaters as you. Don't you have some pull? I'm like, no, like you're just a person with a house like every other 330 million homes in the U.S. Like water heaters die every day. And like, oh, it just sucks. It died. We just moved in 30 days ago, and they just got done spending money on furniture and movers and everything, Like, I know that sucks, but I mean, that when you have a used home, that's one of the risks you run. With ours, we do have water heaters, some pumps, things like that go bad. Like, it's on us.
Mm-hmm.
We got to take care of it.
Yep, we'll
So,
get in there.
At
Don't
least you
worry.
got somebody to call them. So
Yeah. Glenn will come out to you. Don't worry. So I guess just closing up with this, what would you say is the most rewarding part of building a home for our homeowners?
from my perspective,
Your perspective, our team's perspective,
I think
whatever you feel.
I think I can speak for most of the construction managers and maybe part of the office staff too, but like there's a certain sense of accomplishment or pride when you finish a home. Even like I can tell you where the very first home I built was. I could drive you to it. Like I don't remember the address, but I could drive you to it.
Yeah.
And I could tell you all about that customer. But like even for me, it's really cool to see some of the stories that I hear from people, whether it's a review or a nice email from a customer. But more importantly, like at the end of the day, last year it was pretty late in the day. I wasn't going to make it home for dinner, and I was driving through our Hampshire subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
And our very first phase there at this point is a couple years old, and like the landscaping's mature, the sun's going down. There's a bunch of, this is like the middle of summer, so there's a bunch of like 3 to 14-year-olds riding their bikes around, like just having fun, It was just kind of cool because we built that community.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't like some, marketing gobbledygook. Like we literally built that community out of a farm field, and like to see all the kids, like, and I was in an unmarked truck, like no one knew who I was, but it was just really cool. I just sat there for a minute and I took a picture, but like seeing the landscaping all mature, what the homeowners had added to their landscaping, seeing all the different floor plans and elevations we offer, like kind of like really, really finished.
Everyone's like real life experience.
Yeah, like when we finish a street, for instance, and the houses are closing, like everything's done and it looks good. But like a year later, when people have kind of made it their own too, like that's when it's really like,
that's cool. I had a hand in that.
yeah, and I know a lot of our construction managers, especially the guys that we train, they haven't built a house. Like I know they kind of have said the same thing to me. Like it's kind of cool to see it all come together. I think even some of the office staff, like watching from afar, get to see it come together. So
I agree. And like I get to drive through all of our communities every single week, picking up content to show you guys, and I get those same moments. Like I know that I haven't been around super long with Silverthorne, but like I know for a fact those houses on that street have been here for a few years, and there's people pulling out of their driveway with their kids going to sports. There's people pulling in from work. Like that's their home they get to go to every single day. And
we actually had a really cool in Hampshire. We called it the gang of kids. They roamed around in a pack, but it was so funny. It was so cool. Like you remember back to being that age, and like I don't know. It's just it's a cool feeling, And everybody's home is new. It's not just like, where I grew up, there was an old house, a new house, a lot of older houses, like it's just something
Everything
cool
mixed
about.
in,
Yeah.
Well, I guess what advice would you give someone just thinking about building their Silverthorne home? Just
listen to all of these podcasts.
Yeah, listen to all of our podcasts, please. I'll piggyback off of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of the stuff we've already talked about, but honestly, like we're going to take a deep dive on a lot of those topics in the podcast, and I think that'll be really good for people to be able to hear us just having conversations, and even the other people on the team, you or I interviewing them or talking to them about those. I mean, whether it's winter building or expectations, that's another one that we could do. That would be really good with our sales manager, just even some of our sales team, some of the things they've run into. So, yeah, we just want to keep doing more of these. I mean, like you said, one of our biggest things is transparency. And
if you have
kind
any
of brutally honest,
us,
and if you have questions, if you're building with us
Yeah.
currently and you want to ask, we're going to do Q&As. We could do that. We're kind of figuring it out, but we could do that every episode if we have anything. So feel free to submit them in the comments. And, the next time we film one, we can add that in and tag you. But, yeah, we want to educate people as best we can.
So where can these viewers of ours watching this entire podcast, thank you for listening this whole time if you've gotten this far, where can they go to get their home building process started?
SilverthorneHomebuilders.com.
Beautiful.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
see you there. Thanks.